This is topic 4, factoring trinomials. So something that we've been practicing lately and is recent to you is that we can multiply two binomials using the FOIL method. So multiply the first terms, multiply the outside terms, inside terms, and last terms. By combining the middle two terms, we get x squared plus 3x minus 10. So what we're going to learn this topic is how to undo that, or go from something that looks like this to what we started with. So to start, we're going to do some practice finding two numbers that meet the criteria of numbers 1 through 5. So we want two numbers that multiply to be 6. So I want to list some factors of 6. I know I can do 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. But then they have to add to be 5. So if I go ahead and add these, the first group of numbers I get 7, the second group of numbers I get 5, which is what I want. So my answers are 2 and 3. Let's look at number 2. We need numbers that multiply to be 8. So that can be 1 and 8 or 2 and 4. They also have to add to be 6. So that's going to be this set of numbers, 2 and 4. Now it gets a little tricky when we throw in negative numbers. We want two numbers that multiply to be negative 10. So if they multiply to negative 10, I could have 1 and negative 10, negative 1 and 10, 2 and negative 5, or negative 2 and positive 5. So I want them to add to positive 3. So it's going to look like it's this set of numbers, negative 2 and 5. When we list our factors, we need to make sure we include the negative numbers. Multiply to be negative 15. So again, this is one where we have to multiply each of them by negative 1. So 1 and 15, negative 1 and 15, 3 and negative 5, or negative 3 and positive 5. So if they have to add to be negative 2, we need to be careful. It needs to be negative. So that will be this set of numbers. 3 plus negative 5, add to negative 2. All right, now we need multiply to be positive 24. These have a bunch. So we have 1, 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 6 and 4. So, but then they have to add to be negative 14. None of these add to negative 14, but if we think about it, if we multiply a negative times a negative, that still gives us positive 24. So which one of these two numbers add to negative 14? Well, negative 2 and negative 12. Go ahead and follow those rules and do these U-tries. We're going to use our knowledge from the last two slides and the last U-tries in order to actually factor these trinomials. So if we look at number 1, we have x squared plus 2x plus 1. So what we are going to do is look for numbers that multiply to our c term but add to our b term. So the first thing we need to do is identify what our c term is. If we look up here, we have the generic formula. C is going to be the constant. So I'm looking for numbers that multiply to 1, and my b is my middle coefficient, and add to positive 2. So this is actually kind of nice because there are only two numbers that multiply to 1. Those are 1 and 1, or negative 1 and negative 1. Which set of those numbers add to 2? Positive 1 and positive 1. So when we write our answer, we can use the format because we have x parenthesis, x parenthesis. Remember those two binomials. We take these terms. So we have positive 1, so I'm going to put that in. Positive 1 and positive 1. Let's try this with number 2. I need to look for factors that multiply to negative 45, but add to -4. So the first thing I need to do is look for factors of -45. We always have 1 and -45 or -1 and 45. It's not divisible by 2. We can have 3 and -15 or -3 and 15 or 5 and -9 or -5 and +9. So which set of these numbers add to -4? It's going to be 5 and -9. So when you write our answers, our signs are important. I always start with my x's and the open parentheses. I have a +5, so I do +5. A -9 means I put -9. Let's look at that top right example, number 3. So I need numbers that multiply to -22. That's going to be -1 and 22, 1 and -22, -2 and 11, or 2 and -11. Which set of those numbers add to 9? Well, -2 and 11 add to 9. So again, I have my x's with my parentheses. I have a -2, so that means -2. A +11 means I have +11. All right, let's look at that last one. We need factors of +25. So that could be 1 and 25, -1 and -25, 5 and -5, or -5 and 5, which are the same thing. Which set of these numbers add to -10? -5 and -5. So we have our x's, and both of these are -5s. Go ahead and do the U tries.